Rollergames. Stop the most barbaric crime wave on ball bearings. And welcome to Nostalgia, a chronological exploration of every NES game released in North America. I'm Mike.
And I'm Sean.
And Rollergames, for the uninformed, which would have included myself. I don't know about you, Sean. Were you informed about this beforehand?
This is just an amazing discovery I think we've made here.
Okay, great. Because I think everybody who was alive for it probably buried it in their subconscious as well. So we're all going to awaken and remind ourselves that Rollergames was an actual television sport that debuted in 1989.
Sport entertainment, yeah.
Well, yeah, don't bury the lead. It was a televised sport with a more theatrical take on roller derby. There was a figure eight track and modified rules, and there were teams: the T-Birds, the Violators, the Maniacs. A team just called Bad Attitude. That's not really a team name. That's just like a vibe. The Rockers and Hot Flash. Again, should have been like the Hot Flashes, but here we are. The show lasted one season due to bankruptcy. Not that should surprise anybody, but more importantly, as Sean said, this was sports entertainment. Sean, what does sports entertainment mean?
I mean, I feel like our show has a big crossover with wrestling fans. I know you like wrestling.
What are you saying about wrestling right now?
I like stories about wrestling. I don't particularly like
but what
wrestling.
What are you implying about wrestling right now?
Nothing.
Good.
It's just sports entertainment. But I think that if I was introduced to sports entertainment in this fashion, I would have been super into it. Like, this is my new favorite TV show. This isn't about the video game anymore, Mike.
Right, yeah. This is actually now a Rollergames podcast. Going forward, we're going to watch every episode and review it, and we're going to be like Dave Metzer and give scores about each roller derby team's matches against one another. I don't know if you know that, Sean, but there's a guy who reviews like every single fight in wrestling and has been doing so for like 40 years. And he gives them a score out of 5, and it's just like it's something that like either you know that it's done and you're like a religious follower of it, or you know that it's being done and you're like, why is somebody doing this? Like, I can form my own opinion on what I thought of the fight.
I mean, I think you kind of do something like that, but I'm not gonna throw you under the bus.
Well, I do something like that for almost anything, but it's always, keep in mind, not something that I share mostly with other people. I guess you could argue the essential games list but we're not giving a score, right?
We're not.
At the end of the episode, should we give a
binary
score
opinion
to roller games? At the end of the episode, we'll just give a score?
We'll give it a
score. Out of 1,000?
Out of whatever you want.
Out of 1,000 seems fair. This way
you can do out of 1,000. I'll do out of something else.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that way they'll know, like, oh, that's the Sean scale.
Yeah.
Yep. What's funny is as I was looking up stuff about roller games, obviously I start with the video game because I don't think it's based on anything. Then I find out it's based on this sport, and I'm just reading about the sport, and this caught my eye. Bill Griffith Sr. was the commissioner. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking at the list of the teams and their managers, and Bill Griffith Jr. is the manager of the Los Angeles T-Birds. And I say, wait a minute, that sounds like a conflict of interest. And all of that, all of those fears were put to rest when I finally just said, well, I just need to see how this show even went down. And man, am I glad that we have the Griffiths to save us from the likes of the Violators, led by the evil Skull.
Mr. Mean. Yeah, you're right. There's just so much, like, this is peak 80s. Like, this is, I know that there's, like, also American Gladiator to think about, the shows like this, but, like, when I turned this TV show on, it was just like you are immersed in it. Like, I thought that if I looked out my window, I would see, like, Marlboro ads everywhere, and just every person walking down the sidewalk to have some really like hairsprayed out, like feathered shit going on. Like I thought I was there. Like this is so good.
And you mentioned wrestling as another form of sports entertainment, and you just brought up American Gladiator. Those two, and specifically wrestling, like wrestling will have, funny characters, right? People that have like either a quirky personality to them or kind of a gimmick about them. But for the most part, like the really strong macho guy is usually the one fighting the other really strong macho guy for the the world championship, the thing that like has it all on the line. That is not true in roller games, and I knew that the second I saw the teams come out. These people, first off, there are people on the team that are like 70 years old, and that's
well, those
weird.
are the OGs. Those are the OGs roller, because apparently roller games was also a thing in like the 60s and stuff.
Those people would have had to been playing in the 30s. But no, I just mean like they don't look the most they don't look like they got the cream of the crop.
Yeah, just to keep going on the show, like this looks like a sport that they just pulled people off the street to play. Like it, I think regardless of whether you follow hockey or football or soccer, like you can, there's a subconscious like, oh wow, these people make the bodily movements that they're doing look good and measured and graceful in some capacity. Like it looks like they are executing something athletically. That is not what's happening here when you watch these people. Is this even roller derby? Like I've never seen roller derby, but this is some sort of offshoot of roller derby. It's so funny.
Yeah, this is definitely different than roller derby because remember, roller derby, like the real stuff, doesn't traditionally have a wall of death or an alligator pit.
The alligator pit for sure.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised, but actually, I did go see a all women's roller derby last time I was up in Buffalo, and it was just like spontaneously done. Like I didn't buy tickets for it or anything. I was just like at this like open space to drink. You
were at Riverworks.
Riverworks, yeah. I didn't want to like dox the bar, but that's a joke. But and I was watching it just like casually, and I was like, wow, this is really exciting. Like it's kind of weird that they saw roller derby and were like, we need to amp this up. Like we need to definitely.
Yeah, that was my thought.
Everything.
Like I thought roller derby was already like amped up.
Yeah, it's aggressive too. It's very physical. There are like hip checks and like little tricks you can do to wipe out your opponent and stuff. So it's there. They just felt the need to take everything to the next level, including the personalities. These are like cartoonish levels of acting, but yeah, but they're it's also like they're not convincing me the same way that like Macho Man Randy Savage, right? Who like now is cartoonish by like the wrestlers we have, right? Like he was clearly, just overdoing everything. But like back then, that was like, yeah, I want to be Macho Man.
I still want to be Macho Man.
Well, yeah, I would love to just wake up tomorrow and be Macho Man.
Yeah,
but, mostly for the Slim Jim endorsement. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like, and this is probably true in many sports, but like the cheerleaders look like they are in better shape than everyone who's on the field.
That's true. And I do like that they all get their themed cheerleaders, even though I think you called one of the teams the Los Angeles T-Birds. I think they're all Los Angeles, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know why I did that. I think that was a Wikipedia leftover.
But I appreciate that they are so themed that like even the cheerleaders will like get into the fights on the court, the field, the track. Their managers are like a heartless entertainment lawyer and some kind of weird biker gang. I guess not even just a biker gang leader, but he's a okay. He worships a head in a box of some long dead god. I get like, did you see this in the?
Yeah, I mean, we saw the same episode, but
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't know the word for that.
I guess
Crazy,
pagan.
maybe.
Pagan.
Yeah.
There we go.
But with all of these, like, not only are they so hyped up and everything, but it's also like it's just assumed on episode 1, right, of this brand new sport that like you would know the ins and outs and the storylines and the play. Like, they don't do a lot of like setup.
I think they're trying to sell that there is more history to this than there is.
Right.
Like, oh, there's something about, oh, he'll be in the Hall of Fame, or he's a 19-year vet. Like, has this... like, there's no way that anyone has been playing this sport for 19 years as it is right now. Like, they're making up, like, a world for you to buy into that they would hopefully... this is just me guessing. That they would then hopefully be able to, like, play off of for many seasons, but we only got the one, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, so and then like most of the rules still kind of are in relation to roller derby in the sense of like how many people you pass are worth a certain amount of points.
Oh, so that's real.
That's real, yeah. Like,
okay, because I was like, how do you even score in this game? Like, they kept showing the score. I'm like, when did they score? Like,
yeah, and I don't know the ins and outs of this particular. Like, I think the exciting thing about roller games is it's kind of like, and maybe you didn't have this experience, but like when I was a kid, no one ever like sat down and explained the rules to me. So like I would watch people watch basketball or football or whatever, and I would just have to like learn the rules after watching like game after game and be like, oh, that's what causes a first down. It's like nobody ever like explained to me like, yeah, they got to get 10 yards. Like all of a sudden I'm just like, oh, it's a first down. Oh, because of the 10 yards. Got it. Like I'm 5 years old. I'm figuring this shit out. And that's kind of like what roller games is like, right? You're like, wait a minute. And you all of a sudden you become an expert. You're just like,
I think, okay, like, aside from the lines that they have to get up to score like 6 points as opposed to 2 points on the wall of death, it is not cogent with how it explains the rules. Like with something like basketball or hockey or football, it is displayed in a way that you can see most of the action where it's like needed to be seen, and you can that kind of like allows you to form that context and see like, oh, that makes sense. Whereas this is just like going from action shot to action shot to action shot. You can't like at no point do you are you able to situate yourself. And I don't think that's the point. Like the point of the show is to just be a spectacle. But if it were shot like a regular like league,
yeah, it needs
sport,
that bird's eye view.
Yeah, then maybe, but it doesn't do that.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that like every other sport that I can think of, the team with the most points at the end wins.
Yes.
So that's good. You just have to follow the points. However, if they tie, then unlike most sports, they open up the alligator pit and you go to sudden death. And
my favorite thing about the alligator pit isn't even the alligators. It's the alligator handler model.
What was his name? Animal? Like,
Animal. He's like some Tarzan bodybuilder dude that they interview, and like every interview was just like anger, and even like the alligator handler's like angry, like, I don't know why people don't want the alligators. They belong here just as much as us. Like, what?
So with all of this lore, right, between all the different teams and this whole new way of playing roller,
we're getting a sports game, right?
Yeah, right. Wouldn't we just get a faithful translation of this, crazy roller derby game that they've came up with and televised, and now it's going to be, you could play it at home, kids, on your NES. I could see the commercial.
Yeah.
But it's not that. It's a side-scrolling action platformer featuring the teams from the show, but it's completely unrelated to the actual sport, other than the fact that like they use the teams and the managers to kind of like tell
those are the bosses
story.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even I would describe it as like a beat 'em up almost. Like you've got the same kind of combo systems at times. Like, I mean, you kind of go between that and the standard platforming, but
Yeah, I was
always
thinking
on
about that.
roller skates.
Yeah, it's like it's the odds and even levels, right? So the odd
Yeah.
levels are the beat 'em ups, and then the even levels are like the platformer, like dodge these things and you'll
Like the
continue
Battle
on.
Toads, like
Hey, how could you talk about that if we haven't done that episode yet?
oh well,
No, I'm teasing. It's fine to
no,
know
you're
about
right.
Battletoads.
Let me get back into character as someone that's never played Battletoads. I've never seen it done before.
There you go. Thank you. And since there is a lot of apparently history to roller games, and there are feuds between the good teams like the T-Birds and the
The
bad
good
teams like
teams.
the Violators. The baby faces and the heels of roller games. It would make sense that we could do just a simple plot around that idea, right? Of just like, the Violators are up to no good, and it's up to the T-Birds to take them down. But instead, the plot revolves around a mysterious alien aiding the Eastern Empire teams. That's the Violators, the Maniacs, and Bad Attitude for those keeping score at home.
It's like the Atlantic Division.
Right. And they are sabotaging the sport, and get a load of this, they have kidnapped Commissioner Bill Griffith.
I really wish that there was like a football version of this where like the underground people have captured Roger Goodell and your party of Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow have to go and save him, but it's like a rhythm game and you have to get a DVR pad to play.
I say this sincerely. I don't wish ill on anybody, but like if you're a kid, or you're even you, Sean, right? It's 2025.
I am me.
Sean. Yep, you're you in this scenario. And you find out that the whole game revolves around saving Roger Goodell. Are you gonna see it through?
I mean, no. That was like where I started with the joke, and then I kind of went off the rails.
Just like this game?
Yeah, no, I think it. No, the game was never on the rails.
Yeah, you should have skated on rails. Should have been like a rail
cool.
shooter with a game, skateboarding, not skateboarding, rollerblading. Skateboarding's next week.
Oh yes, such
All
an
right,
extreme month.
So with the you get to choose between the three teams. You get the T-Birds, the Hot Flash, and the Rockers. You get to play as one particular character from each of them, and there's no difference. There's no stat boost or whatever. It's just like you're just picking that team. What do you think the reason is for that, right? Like, that's weird.
I mean, I could have sworn that Hot Flash Girl was faster, but
she's just great at everything she does, Sean.
That's true. That was my main character, but
that's the only character in the game as far as I'm concerned.
But like, I was fighting this. This is as far as I got in the game. I was fighting a jet ski boss.
Okay.
Which I think is level 5.
You were so close.
Yeah, and I hit the jet ski almost every time it jumped over, and it just wasn't happening. Like, it would not finish the fight for me. And I have to imagine, like, oh, she seems faster, but maybe she also doesn't hit as hard, and like I have to play this level as one of the rocker or the T-Bird to do it right. Like, I thought that was the difference, but maybe I'm completely wrong and that was all placebo.
Apparently, it's placebo. I didn't do
Damn.
enough play testing to confirm because, again, if you don't pick the Hot Flash, what are you doing?
Exactly.
But here we are, and
and you beat it. So
apparently, it's just that they have different attack animations, which helps like sell the difference, right?
Mhm.
Like, oh, that like I don't know if this is exclusive to the Hot Flash, but there's this one move during the when the enemies lock into place, when the screen locks into place and the enemies just keep flying out, where you can grab them and start bashing them with your knee. Like you hold them by their backs and you bring them into your knee and you hit them 4 times. That's a I buy that move. I'm like, ooh, that's doing some damage.
They do that with the other characters too.
Okay, but the other animations and like the other punches and stuff, they could do a better job selling this stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is like they got the movement right. I think that it feels like I'm on roller skates, so no complaints there. But between like the hit detection and like just because you can only like when you're in the more beat 'em up mode, you can only punch to the left or the right. I know that's like a normal thing with beat 'em ups, but it especially with how kind of difficult this game can be too. Like there's a lot to be desired in how that version of the game feels.
Yeah, and you can also you can do the jump as well during the beat 'em up stages.
Jump kicks,
yeah, jump kicks and stuff. It's not a huge variety, but also like I don't know, you're not necessarily overwhelmed by enemies, right? This isn't the kind of game where like the solution by the game to make things harder is just give you more enemies. It just becomes trickier to skate
bosses.
around. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we should talk about the bosses separately, but I guess I'm saying like the beat 'em up stuff, it's not very complex, right?
No.
But it's also, it doesn't overstay its welcome at any point. These aren't like incredibly long stages.
Yeah, this is a short game.
Yeah, you just, again, this isn't praise for it, but it is just kind of like, you do it, and then thankfully you get to like, you switch it up with the even numbered stages where you essentially are just avoiding whether it's barrels, flamethrowers, helicopter bombs, like you just are dodging all these things instead. And that becomes more of like, I guess what I wanted to see out of like, if we're going to like leave the sport, just a more focus on like roller blading and like using that to your advantage. Like, I know it sounds weird, but I don't really understand like why we're just throwing punches when we could be doing like like skate at the person and then like toss a leg out and trip them and that would deal damage. Like I guess I'm thinking more like the kind of tactics you would use in the game.
Yeah, you're getting to like the real core of what's wrong with this game, and it's that it should not exist. That the fact that you're like, yeah, if we're going from the roller derby-esque sport to this, and we don't even really have that much. There was only the one season. There's really not even that much like star power here, but they're selling it as that because that's all it has to tie it to the show is that these are the characters. If they did have things that like tied it more into rollerblading, like all we get for that tie-in is the fact that if like you actually have a little bit of momentum and you need to build momentum when you're platforming or when you're trying to fight somebody. Like it almost kind of goes away in the fighting sections, and it's more so when you're trying to navigate like in the more like platforming areas. But like the game doesn't have any real connection to its namesake.
Yeah. But even just anything to spice up the video game portion of it too. Like obviously they have made it now this like fantastical adventure, but again, like if you're playing as the Rockers, right? Like maybe they're a little faster, but they take more damage, but you'd be able to clear stages faster, so you don't have to worry about fighting everybody. Like there's really no like there's nothing to differentiate the gameplay other than the forced like this level is this and the next level is something completely different, and then we just keep rotating those two ideas. I think like there's obviously not a lot to even do with rollerblading here. Forget about roller games, right? But just even like we've seen with like Skate or Die, which we're gonna do Skate or Die 2 next week. We saw that like that had a huge emphasis on like skateboarding and like the momentum and physics of that and everything, and it wasn't like realistic or anything, but it took into consideration being on a skateboard. I feel like being on these rollerblades doesn't matter. You might as well have just been running.
Yeah,
Like, you're
and
not
again,
slippery.
it's a little slippery, but it's just so like it's so inconsequential. Yeah, inconsequential. Aside from when it turns into real frustration in platforming, because like you do need to get that momentum. It's there. It's just not executed well.
And so, do the bosses make up for that?
Absolutely not.
I don't think so either. I'm not trying, like, again, it's nice to just not have the bosses just be like, and here's 10 enemies, right? It's nice to have something to switch it up. Again, it's just like, it doesn't change anything about the combat. It doesn't make you like think outside the box. It is just deal damage now to this larger enemy that is capable of doing more damage to you.
Yeah, and it doesn't even seem like these like if they tied them more into the supposed other teams that are fighting against you, um, and it felt like oh, this is like is that kind of ostensibly what's happening? Like, are these the managers of the other teams?
I believe those are the managers of the other teams, which we might as well say their names are Skull, Miss Georgia Hayes,
Miss Georgia Hayes,
and Guru Drew.
Guru, yes. It just like I guess like they're there, but it doesn't really like feel like there's any thematic connection to them. It's just like they're also on screen. But I think if we're gonna talk about the bosses, I just need to describe my least favorite boss, which is I guess this is Miss what's her face, but
Miss Georgia Hayes.
Miss Georgia Hayes, or I don't know who it is, but you are underground or like in a factory, and you're just fighting a dude on this like on a top level of a catwalk, and then one level below this catwalk is this purple person who may or may not be Miss Georgia Hayes.
Oh, I thought it was. I thought that was Guru Drew.
Maybe or may not be Guru Drew. Like with like a trident or like a glaive or something poking through. And this like just the fact that the whole fight is this guy jumping at you and this thing poking up at you from below. It's probably the most annoying boss of the whole game. Probably the most annoying part of the whole game. Just because there isn't really much more to the game. How'd you think?
I do like that you get to, give it to him, though, after you clear out the other
That's
enemies.
true. That's true.
It would suck if it was just like, beat my 10 minions while I poke a stick at you through the grates. And then, the ending is the ending. You save the commissioner. Great. Rollergames can go on.
Yeah, and then you just you just rollerblade off into the sunset.
Yeah, right. See you on the next season of Rollergames.
After that, like, Sports Center knockoff guy says, like, you did it.
Are you talking about halftime commentator Wally George?
Maybe that's his name.
I think so. I think it is.
He was probably one of my favorite moments in the actual show, which is like, it almost felt like it was trying to sell, like, oh, this is like a serious sports show. And then I think Miss Georgia Hayes comes on and he just leans into her.
I don't want to talk about the show so much, but I'm going to do it right now again.
Yeah, it's all right.
At the beginning of the episode, there's a song that's being sung about roller games. And I never got the
rock and roller games.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I never got the impression that was being performed live, but then they cut to that guy in the crowd who's singing it, like
in
as
the
if
leopard
he's
print
singing
suit. Yeah,
yeah, as if he's singing it with the crowd or whatever. But it's clearly not live. Like he's lip syncing at the very least. But like, what is the audience experiencing at that moment?
I think that the audience has been coached. There's the reactions that these people have, the signs that these people carry, are not possible with the product
one episode in the bank, right?
Yeah. So I think that they've all been told, like, this is like going to a late night show, which if you've ever done that, they have very small crowds that are easy to manage. They're easier to say, hey, clap here, please, yada yada. But they're doing this at like a stadium scale, or at least the lower bowl of an arena, which is impressive. But I do still think it's this like this coaching behavior.
Yeah. See, the problem is that they had to do it in like on like a sound stage, right? They didn't have the ability to take this thing on the road, but it would have been a bigger deal if they would have done like the Monday Night Nitro route and just put this inside the Mall of America. And people are just like shopping and then like, oh yeah, this is going on. Like
that would be great. But like they do have a lot of people in attendance for this.
No, I know. I think like literally they told everybody who works grip and everybody who they're like, bring your whole family.
Kids, yeah. Oh man.
The guy in the leopard print sings another song around halftime too, but like that's kind of exhausting to think that there's going to be oh no, wait, he sings the whole thing again.
He looks really exhausted too. Like
But you know what's crazy is like the idea that there's going to be a halftime show in the middle of every episode, like
do you think that, like, okay, so, again, a little bit of backstory for the show. At the very beginning of the episode, 2 teams have already been eliminated. Like, we see them come out and be introduced just, like, for the character of the team. Like, I think some of, like, what are they, the Maniacs, and one is, I think, just these people the Hot Flash is actually the team that was already eliminated before the show really started. Do you think that they were ever like they actually performed earlier and it was like this has just been cut for time, or do you think that these are just actors that didn't even learn how to play the game? That
I'm just gonna if I'm shooting roller games, it's expensive. I'm shooting multiple episodes a day.
Okay.
So I think they brought everybody out, and then they were just like, okay, cool, that's a wrap on episode 1. Everybody get lunch, and we're doing episode 2 right after. You know, like there's like these people are not part of a union or anything. They are being worked to death.
So you do think that they were never supposed to? Like, that there wasn't a game that eliminated them.
You know, if I could take the mask off for a second, Sean, it's scripted, right? So there's no reason. Right, like they're already coming up with the results, right? It's just a matter of like how deep.
I wasn't playing with the mask. I know that it's scripted.
No, I know. So I'm saying like I don't think that they had to be there for that episode to help like build in the story or whatever. And then they obviously aren't like out for the entire season.
Okay, you're right. I only watched the first episode, but it was like a 2-hour episode. So
yeah, no, these things are long.
Yeah.
And one thing that at least the version I watched on YouTube and the video game have in common.
What's that?
They both run at 60 FPS. For whatever reason, the episode was in 60 FPS, and I was like, oh, this is great. It looks very good.
I mean, it's videotape, so it really doesn't need to be like locked to anything. It's not like they filmed it.
Yeah, it's just pretty great that like all NES games run at 60 FPS.
That is good. But again, it's like, it's hard to tell on CRT.
Yeah. And it's also not entirely true. I mean, I'm sure it's still running at 60 frames or whatever, but like Gradius, clearly wasn't if you loaded enough enemies in.
Yeah. The clock, if there isn't any stress on the processor, then it'll run at 60 FPS.
Yeah. But, games were just better back then is what I'm saying.
True.
Do you think we should have games that run at 48 frames per second to kind of get between that 30 and 60 thing?
Oh, wow. I forgot about that whole conversation.
That was a nuts thing that happened.
Yeah. I'm glad it petered out.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Very, very smart, Sean.
That was an accident.
You know what else is very smart? Rollergames also made another video game for the arcades that is like a video game version of the sport.
Wow.
Yes.
Why couldn't we have just gotten that?
I don't know why we maybe they just figured like, the NES is for kids. Let's give them something more like exciting and
isn't the whole thing for kids? Maybe not the whole thing. Maybe not the whole.
Okay, so was the XFL for kids?
You're right. He Hate Me. It was very PG-13.
everybody can name one player on the XFL, but
It's
they
He
couldn't.
Hate Me.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know why that stuck with everybody, but that's me as well. That's the only XFL player I could name.
I think Tommy Maddox was in there too, but that could be Mandela shit.
Now, I'm not going to say anything about the Rollergames arcade game because I didn't play it. But I did watch like a pretty extensive long play of it. And the graphics are great, first off. It does this thing where like it still doesn't go for and rightfully so, it doesn't go for like the bird's eye view thing of like seeing the whole track. You just kind of are like locked into the action part where essentially it's, like 4-on-4 where like, you're probably playing as just one of these guys on your team, but there are like other computer assists, and then there are a bunch of the opposing team. There's 4 at a time as well, and you're like, it's moving really fast. Like, I don't know if you're watching it now, Sean, but like for the arcade game, like it has like a great sense of speed. It follows the rules of the game. It feels like it is a complicated sport to grasp, but because it still embraces like the beat 'em up style of arcade video games, I'd be inclined to say that this is like the way more interesting thing. This is actually the one where I'm like, wait a minute. Now I actually, like, joking aside about the fact that we got this totally random adventure game from Rollergames, like, I kind of wish we did get this on the NES, even if it didn't look this good, because it still looks like it's...
This is so weird. I just pulled it up. And, like, it literally is... Like, if you were to boil this down to... like remove all of the effects, yada yada. It's just like a single screen beat 'em up, but the background is just spinning at an insane rate to make it look like they're. So that's your sense of speed there. Like, is there any moment where you score?
Yes, yeah, and there's.
Oh, here it is. Yeah, okay.
But what's funny is yes, Sean, to your point about like, that's the only sense of speed. It's like, yeah, it makes it look like the track is turning, but nothing is actually turning. Like there's no bends in the actual track or anything that like affect gameplay. You are essentially like on just a different plane than the background.
Yeah. It's very... I would like to play this game.
You can also get into fights in this game with the other team, like, like one-on-one, like you would in Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey or something. But, like, it's actual, like, it's weird to say Street Fighter because Street Fighter 2 didn't come out yet, but it's, like, that style of fighting game combat. And that's like, wow, that's pretty early for this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, now we definitely got to play this.
Yeah, I got to find out who still has a cabinet for this.
Yeah.
I know that there's a website for that for pinball machines where you can just like type in the pinball machine you want to play and it'll show you a map in the United States of where those are. There should be like something like that for arcades as well, because I feel like there's a lot of games that are just like, obviously we have MAME, right? And we can play whatever we want, but you can't really play it the same way as the arcade games. Like, for instance,
they all had custom controls and
custom. Yeah, exactly. If they even like sometimes like light gun games, right? It's like, yeah, you can play it with like a Wii Zapper or with your own light gun, but like some of those had like really fancy guns that had like multiple different ways to like use them and stuff. And I just think like that's all lost. Or even like what are those buck hunting games? Like, there's a lot of like technology going on between the gun and the screen and the scope that like, you just can't do at home. And so I would love to find a website that could tell me where I could play some of these arcade games.
Well, I can tell you one thing at least. You'll never have trouble finding Big Buck Hunter. but
Yes.
something like roller games. Yeah. If there's somewhere in the tri-state area that someone can shout out, please do.
In 1999, TNN debuted Roller Jam.
TNN.
TNN, Roller Jam. It used the classic rules of roller derby, including the banked oval track, not the figure eight track from Roller Games. But it allowed inline skates.
Ooh, so this is more for me.
No more of the quads. So now the speed was going on. Although, is that a known thing? You can always go faster with inline versus quad, or is that like more of a skill thing?
I mean, you can't really like bank or anything on quad because there's nothing to bank on. So I would imagine that I've never roller skated. I've only roller bladed, so I really don't know the mechanical difference. But I just know that you would have to slow down to turn on skates, just
Right.
mechanically. Yeah.
Yeah. But I didn't watch any of Roller Jam, so we can't do another 30 minutes on that. But my understanding is Roller Jam is not sports entertainment.
It's a sport.
Well, at least it kept up the facade of being a sport.
Yeah, unlike the NFL, which the curtain
Right.
has fallen.
Clearly scripted.
Clearly scripted.
Why would the Buffalo Bills do that?
Well, I can tell you one thing that's not scripted, Mike.
And what's that?
I don't know. You told me.
The essential games list. Roller Games is very interesting because if you play the video game now, like in 2025, and you don't do any research, you wouldn't necessarily know from this NES game that it is licensed in relation to anything. You would just think, wow, they created this whole like roller derby world where like everything is on skates and that's not gonna cut it here. That's not gonna be enough of an intrigue. Yes, it's of note to me. Like I got a lot of enjoyment out of this just between the wacky disparity between the game and the game show. But ultimately, Roller Games, the video game, is offering like just a baseline video game experience, if that makes any sense. It qualifies for being a functional video game. It doesn't go really anything beyond that. The game said in the manual that I should get ready to be rocked, rattled, and rolled, and I didn't feel any of those. Sean?
Yeah, this is one of those games that like sometimes I'll get into the headspace of like, what if some future civilization found this single piece of media and this was it? Like this was all that was left. And I think that this would probably be one of the more confusing entries, just because of how many degrees of separation this is from one, what it's based on, two, what it's based on is based on, and three, just like the whole concept of roller derby as a sport, not really that like well known. It's so weird, and the fact that they turned what ostensibly would be a cool idea for a sports title into basically Double Dragon on skates is just beyond me. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they had like something in the works already and just decided to brand it this way. That's what I have to think about because the game itself really doesn't have much going on. Like I did mention that some of the movement felt cool. Like it kind of felt skatey, but that lasted maybe 10 seconds, and then the game just sort of like turned into what Mike said, just like that baseline video game experience. So yeah, not essential at all. But Roller Games is not my favorite show. So.
Oh yeah, Roller Games is an essential TV show. It should be on the top 50 list of any sports entertainment TV list, of which there are at least 50 entries, I'm sure.
Hopefully.
Now, it's funny, you mentioned Double Dragon with skates, but like that's really like if the game Double Dragon just had Billy and Jimmy on skates, it would be still better than this game in every conceivable way.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't even talk that much about like, oh, why aren't they like skating, right? Like why aren't they slippery or whatever? It's like, who cares? Like the rest of the game's great. That's what the problem is like they put these people on skates, barely did anything about it, and then also didn't make a good beat 'em up on top of that.
It's true.
As I mentioned a few times this episode, because it's on my mind, we will be reviewing. We don't do that. We will.
We didn't give our scores.
Oh, that's so right. Forget what I was about to say because it was a flub anyway.
Yeah.
And let's talk about our scores. Mine's going to be out of 1,000. And so I'm going to give Rollergames a score of 416.
Okay.
Out of 1,000.
So my score, it's more of an adversarial score, in the same scoring pattern as Rollergames itself. So imagine that this video game, Rollergames, is playing against Rollergames the show. This is what the score would be. It would be 38-13. Rollergames the show wins.
Yeah, well, absolutely. We know your bias.
Yes.
Yeah, I think for what it's worth, I think that like more things should be scripted. More things in life should just be scripted, right? Like our show. Our show could benefit from being scripted.
The stock market, the government and politics
is scripted. It's all been priced in since the beginning of time, Sean.
Geological activity. Basically, determinism in general should just be how we go about things.
The dinosaurs were scripted.